Hi, Sold viewers. Big Ronnie here with the Sold Stay at Home series. It is April 19th. We are still on lockdown and still trying to give you content, show you that our artists and contributors and everybody in the scene is still doing what they're doing. If you'd like to help keep us doing what we're doing, please consider signing up on our Patreon page, patreon.com/sold magazine. And just before we introduce today's guest, I just want to say thank you to everyone out there for helping slow this spread down, being responsible, staying indoors, doing whatever it takes, driving your significant others or roommates absolutely crazy during about all this. If you want to talk about it, please reach out to us, reach out to Erica, reach out to me, reach out to Sold Mag Online, and let's talk about it. And we're going to be talking about it today with the fabulous Tina Ziegler. Hello, Tina.
Hello, how are you both doing? So good to speak with you.
Very good. You are joining us from England. You told us that you recently moved out of London up to York just to get out of the city.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I left about 5 weeks ago when things started to get really quite crazy, obviously internationally, but in London as well. And I live alone, which is, most of the time wonderful. But when you're going into lockdown, you kind of have to, I just thought, do I really want to be alone for the next unforeseeable future? So my friends came down from York and rescued me. So I'm very happy to be up here. And I've been relaxing and having, digesting the situation like we all are, adapting.
Now, our listeners will probably remember you as the creative director, curator, Gal Friday, everything for Moniker Art Fairs.
Yes.
Now, we've seen you twice in New York and have followed your Moniker shows in England. What's coming up? What's it looking like? How hard is it to try and put together an art fair now?
Oh, fairly impossible, I would say. Moniker also was doing a lot of other projects outside of the annual art fairs, which, were very much dependent on not a pandemic happening. So we were supposed to be up in Leeds, actually opening an exhibition with Dos Alas from Miami next week in end of April, and then had some mural projects happening and, all these kind of things throughout the year. We also were looking at doing another Moniker in London. We weren't coming back to New York this year because I wanted to focus on really trying to build out the network in the UK, especially, with Brexit right ahead of us. So it was really important for us as a business to look local for that. But on the other side, we were planning a big art fair, which I won't say too much about now, but in October, when we normally do our fairs in London. So, we kind of just, to be completely honest, every single project I've been working on for the past 7 months have been postponed. A lot of those as well, unfortunately, were dependent on annual budgets of 2020. Therefore, every time you negotiate a project, you have to renegotiate those budgets. So we're, essentially everything that Moniker was doing from an event perspective has been put on hold for the moment. So it's that's, I think a lot of art fairs around the world are in a similar situation. A lot of galleries, a lot of exhibitions, everything that we used to, publicize about the thousands of people that would come to our event. Now I'm really questioning, how do we change that narrative? Is it always such a positive thing to say you have 14,000 people in the same room? So it's, we'll see. So I'm definitely taking it day by day. And I think we all are as business owners, and just looking at other ways that Moniker can stay relevant. And, how really, like what you've just said, is like really looking out, what are the artists doing now? What are the creatives doing now? And responding to that.
See, I'm struggling every time we speak with an artist or someone, a creative. How do you support them in a time like this without simply buying their work? There's no real way to help a group or to raise money or to just go after one small sect of artist or one person right now. It's tough. Like if I were you, I wish I had your lists and your buyers and things like that. Maybe you could reach out to people that are actually still spending money out there and frankly looking for deals and match them up with people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of artists are doing kind of studio sales and stuff like that, print sales to get themselves, being able to still pay the rent. I think there's a lot of opportunity to redesign how we do business for sure. And we have to really think outside the box now. I mean, this is a challenging time on so many levels, not just financial. But, I think there is this kind of element where it was almost, from personally speaking, it was almost digesting what was happening before reacting. And I think, there are, like you said, ways to engage with artists and sell artwork still and keep the movement moving forward. However, I think from me, I immediately went to action in my local community. I tried to really do local outreach because I found that was really beneficial and had immediate benefit. And I think, we're over here in Europe, we're about 5 weeks into this, or depending on the country, but in the UK. And I think there's this whole mental element that we need to discuss where there is this kind of pause that happened where we didn't know how to adapt to it from businesses. A lot of, the first 2 weeks of it was scrambling around trying to reinvent the calendar. And then there was this realization of, okay, no, we cannot continue as business as usual. And we don't know when in the foreseeable future we will be able to, if ever. And I think now, in week 5, I'm actually now just starting to think, right, I have all of these skills, I have all of this network, I have all of this database, like how can I access it? How can I reinvent myself in this space as a curator? And I think that's really where it is. For me, it took me a couple weeks to digest what was happening. And, being close to friends that work in the ICU and, people working with vulnerable individuals and the elderly here, like it's just been, all of us are just trying to adapt and solve the immediate problems at hand. The financial strain on all the creatives, but everybody, is massive. And that's something that kind of terrifies me, really, like how will we adapt? I know the creative industry, I actually am quite confident will be fine because we've been through worse and we constantly know how to adapt. But it's definitely a shocker. So.
See, I think for people that are a little above the game, we're not, putting work on the street, specifically you or I or Moniker or Sold. I think this is the time for us to reinvent and recreate so that we can find a way to at least let everyone know that we're in the same boat as you are, and that we're not thinking that we're better or above or different. The media and the press and curators right now could be seen as a little opportunistic, but if we try to show that we're all together and do our own thing, I think it's going to help. What are you wrapping your mind around finally 5 weeks in about people and how to deal with them differently?
Oh, on so many levels, really. Even outside of the art space, I'm quite involved in working with people with mental health issues and vulnerable children, and so I have my head in a lot of wearing a lot of different hats at the minute, as usual. But within, as trying to stay relevant as a curator, it's something I'm thinking about more from, again, trying to help people more through workshops.
We are losing Tina. Let's give her a minute. See.
Oh.
Yeah, let's give it a second. Yeah, you're back.
Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Yeah, no, I think I really want to start doing more. I used to do a lot of stuff, as you know, with Monica with the art conference, which I think at this current time seems to be more relevant, where we're having this dialogue, these conversations. People are teaching each other their learnings and their skills, and I think that's kind of where I would like to move over the next couple of weeks, is really trying to activate those online conversations and debates and discussions, because I think there's brilliant minds sitting in houses all over the world right now. And if we can't go out and enjoy each other's company at an exhibition opening, or have these, really incredible conversations on the weekend with each other in person, or going to art fairs, then I think we need to try to just continue that conversation like you guys are doing with Sold online, and really look at teaching people more. I think there needs to be a lot more artists opening up their studios online, showing their skills. How are we painting? How are we, how do you conceptualize a painting? How do you manifest your style? How do you find authenticity as an artist? Like, these big questions, I think we can take some time to really look at answering or going into further. I'm working as a mentor for a university up here in Leeds, obviously now digitally, but a lot of the conversations these young art students and curatorial students are having are quite profound questions about how do you really look at an artist and know that they're going to be successful through just their style and their sketchbook. How do you identify collectors? How do you build collector groups? So really not looking at just how the industry has operated, but how do these pathways, how are these pathways created? How are artists going to try to find their new authentic voice in the digital age? Like, how do we have this conversation? I think we need to study and research now, and then we'll be able to know how to respond properly. And it's not something I'm looking to do quickly. Running an event in the event space for 15 years, you're always on a deadline. You always have this huge project. You don't really have time to dive deep into really profound questions. So this is where I see the major benefit of not having a major deadline, that we can start to do really profound curatorial work about, one of the things I've been having conversations with people randomly online about is the origins of street art and those key figures that influenced my career 17, 18 years ago. And I think, there's a lot of people like, oh, wow, I didn't know that about this artist, or what was your experience meeting them 15 years ago? And there's this kind of really interesting bringing up the past.
Now's a good time to bring up your hobo code.
Exactly. Documenting the history, documenting your own personal career. So, I want to, redo my website and put out my whole history of work and really look at that, the importance of documentation. So there's a lot, as you can see, there's a lot of things going through my head at the minute, but there isn't this kind of, look, I have this one amazing idea and this is what I'm going to do with it. I am really giving myself a bit of a break at not having to come up with some genius concept.
I love the idea of bringing your discussions online. That was the second moniker, the one in Manhattan. That was my favorite part of the show, and there was some banging exhibitions at that show as well. But those discussions were fantastic. If you could take that onto a Zoom meeting or onto a platform and have you moderate it, or you sit in and have someone cool moderate it, I think that could be really great.
Absolutely. So hopefully when I get my shit together, stay tuned.
Didn't I see at one of the shows, wasn't there a 3D camera walking around? Did you guys virtually model that show?
We didn't, unfortunately. Now in moments like this, I regret not making that decision. But we do have a lot of video content from each fair and exhibition, and a lot of the art conferences were recorded and they're all online for free. So there's a substantial amount of content out there already that people can look at. But again, it's all past stuff, right? So in a way, you're kind of reminiscing on what was and how it was before. And this is such an unprecedented time that I think, there is this beautiful element of remembering and really missing all the great things that we might have taken for granted prior to this. But, once everyone kind of the dust settles and people start to adapt, I think we'll see a real surge of different ways to approach the same experience and it not being physical.
I keep thinking that this is simply just like we're being brought back 100 years in terms
Yeah,
of the way people traveled and the way people reached out. There was no commercial air travel. There was no high-speed rail and things like that. People were far more separated years ago than they are today just because of technology. So it should be easier on the Instagram logic to get the message and get the word out there. But what if people don't have money to buy right now? What if the message and the word is there and there's simply no disposable income for people to play with?
absolutely. I mean, that's a concern for myself, like when you lose your whole business for the next year as a curator, you're in the same situation as any struggling artist. It's not just, we don't just have, I'm self-employed and I've always been self-employed. So it's just there are these big things that we need to consider. Like I need to now move out of London because I won't be able to afford the rent. Like I need to change the way that I've been living my life. And that's just within 5 weeks of this happening. And I think we have months and maybe, some people are saying things won't go back to normal until middle of next year, if that. So I think there's a huge economical recession coming, and that's going to be hard for everybody financially, regardless of what industry you're in. And I think it's going to be really hard to figure that out. And I definitely don't have the answer to it. But I do think, regardless of if we're going to be spending thousands of pounds on paintings, we're still going to want to access information and education and communication. So I think there maybe is a more of a economies of scale, or the more people involved in something, and even if they download it for £1 a day or $1 a day or whatever it is to get access to conferences and talks. And because of the internet, because it's not 100 years ago, we have access to millions of people now online, and they're all sitting at home. So I think there is a way to still reinvent ourselves without this idea of producing a piece of art and then selling it to a collector for a high price. I think we have to really look at maybe doing smaller amounts of work or prints that are really small, really affordable, 20, 30 quid, but doing thousands of them to try to access more people, which will then question the value of art. But I just think there's so many different touch points here, and it's really gonna, I know that the creatives will come up with some brilliant creative idea to adapt to this situation. And of course, the online websites that are selling art are probably doing quite well still. And I have some artists that are doing phenomenally well right now, and others that are struggling so hard. And I can't figure out the equation why. It's not like there's this magic equation, but it's, one of my friends, which has been an incredible example, is he's a fashion company called Sports Banger here in the UK, very localized, East London, like hardcore streetwear brand. And he's been doing t-shirts for the NHS, which is our National Health Service workers. And those t-shirts go to help fund their food for the ICU nurses. And this whole thing has created this storm of people wanting to support him and buy his brand, and huge brand awareness and press coverage and everything for a brilliant cause. So he's gotten incredible PR, incredible network, new clients, new collector bases, but all for a really good cause. So I think there's ways that we have to, obviously, in media, adapting to help our local communities and help our states and our country. But there is obviously, on an individual level, we need to survive. So we have to get.
Let's talk about that big, beautiful, bleeding heart of yours. Because isn't this a great time to focus on the ecology and the environment through art? Because the way that the planet is healing itself with so many fewer humans on the street.
Oh my God, yeah. It's been incredible to breathe clean air, and people are reporting to see more nature. I don't need to tell you what, the documentations around Venice, the water's being clearer, and, in Hong Kong, the pollution level is dropping drastically. there's a huge positive element on that. I think that also has reminded people how precious nature is and how much we need to preserve it. When you get to see the difference in a short period of time, is really quite impactful. And I think that the art world is, as you know, it's something I've been advocating for a long time, with trying to get the art world to be more sustainable. And this is a great time to look at that. constantly at this moment really pursuing my bioplastics. So I launched a compostable biodegradable bubble wrap earlier this year and went into production with it with a bioplastics company here in the UK, and made compostable foam, which is water soluble. So you can literally pack your artwork with zero waste. So, you know, that's something I'm really, really interested in, especially now. It's a perfect time because people are like, right, we need to make the planet and our health a priority. And once things and manufacturers and industry can start running again, I do think consumers and individuals will want to be part of that change in a much more personal way than we were prior. And there's an opportunity there for sure to talk about the environment and change our practice to ensure that what we do is respecting the environment and not just abusing it like we have been doing.
You know, it's interesting with you with your biopacking materials, because all I heard was an excellent business case. Every CEO, there's three things that they want every day in business: is they want to drive their revenue, they want to decrease risk, and they want to decrease expenses. And if you could speak to them simply on a cost basis on how, hey, it's not only nice and friendly for the environment, but it's going to cost you less, then I think you're going to win. It really has to do with the costing for scale, of course. Oh, kitty drive-through.
Yeah, no, I mean, the economies of scale of bioplastics, unfortunately, isn't really strong. Like, I mean, because it's more expensive to produce. And, you know, when you're looking at major manufacturers like Amazon or ASOS or Tesco's, or, you know, your supermarkets there that are packaging their fruit and veg and whatever, regardless of the art world, just consumer product, those products are less than a penny on the pound, on the dollar, you know? So they're such budget crunchers and penny pushers that it's hard to get major industries to shift, because it would directly hit their profit margin. Regardless of the environmental impact, they're just like, we want to make as much profit as possible. So that's where I found the art world was such a beautiful place to start with that message, because we are very privileged individuals in the art community, you know, traveling to Miami every December or going to New York in May. Like, you know, the art community as a whole in the market is very privileged, shipping millions of dollars of art around the world every year. That there was more interest and more enthusiasm to make the shift to bio materials for art packing and offsetting their shipments, because we're a little bit more privileged. And if we're going to spend $3 more on a packaging that is zero waste and causes no harm to the planet, you can't really justify not doing it, right? To the client or the artist or the gallery or the museum. Like, we really have to respond to the planet in every way that we can in our community, because we absolutely can, you know? So that's where I saw the incredible opportunity with working with the creative industries to push that narrative and to push those products, because once the artists are behind it, then the galleries will be behind it, then the museums are behind it, and then it just has to change.
I think all you have to do is find a way to make it trendy.
Absolutely. And I was working on it. I was doing an art campaign with some artists here in the UK. It was coming together really beautifully. Manufacturing was in progress. The prices, I got the bubble wrap down to be as competitive as petroleum-based bubble wrap, but some of the packing foams and stuff were more expensive still. But, you know, it was trying to create a zero waste art kit. That's still my objective. As soon as my manufacturers start opening up and I can go visit my artist studios, we'll definitely be working on it. But until then, it's just a waiting game.
Well, you know what? I always like to say in business that, you know, I like hitting a lot of balls in the air, so I don't have to worry about catching them all. Catch a few, you're doing okay. You know, put 50 ideas out there and see which ones sink and float, type of thing.
Yeah, I know that. I own over 100 domain names.
There you go.
I always come up with another business idea and I'm like, oh, domain name, gotta buy it.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So how else are you mitigating indoor life right now and not being able to be out there and be as social as you typically are?
You know what? I think a lot of creatives are not having that hard of a time, because I'm used to being alone a lot. You know, when you're planning an art fair, you're sitting on your computer for 15 hours a day. And, you know, the whole research stage and the production stage, you're really on your own. It's only those 10 days of actual fair production and the event itself that I'm around people. So most of the time, I spend a lot of time alone anyway. But I was suffering from a bit of burnout last year from working so hard, and my body needed a break. And I was planning on taking one this year anyway, so this has kind of come at a very needed time for me personally. But I keep myself very entertained. I'm designing a new website, reading loads of books, meditating. I'm cooking and eating properly for once.
Woo-hoo!
And drinking copious amounts of alcohol and laughing a lot, which is great, so it's kind of been a blessing. I'm always trying to find the silver lining in things. I think we have to stay sane.
Agreed.
But it's definitely, rather than trying to fight it and struggle and against what is just being thrown at us, I've just tried to roll with it, so
well, this is one of those things that one person can't affect any change but negative right about now. So you keep yourself safe and you keep people around you safe. You're doing a great job.
Absolutely. And I think we can, give so much support to each other online. So I don't actually feel like I don't feel isolated in any way. I don't feel like I'm not connecting with people. I feel like I am actually having deeper conversations that last longer with people because there's no rush to get off the phone. I don't have to be doing something else like I normally have to do. So I just think, for me, it's been really positive, and for my community, it's been really positive. Of course, there's a lot of struggle, and that's something that we're all dealing with in our own way. But this is I think it's a really brilliant time to try to be connected in a different way with people, and also to connect with yourself. Silence is beautiful. To really to come up with great business ideas or come up with that new creative concept or that new painting, you have to take time to be quiet. And that's where a lot of creative energy is born. So I think if people can, I say definitely try to find your peace with it and enjoy it, because it's not going to last. Things will go back to chaotic life. It's in our nature, and this is temporary.
I couldn't agree more, and those are great final words from Tina. I really appreciate you taking the time today. That was a lovely chat. It's nice to see you still smiling and doing your thing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Really nice to speak to you. Enjoy yourselves. Have a lovely day in the sun.
Thank you very much. Before I let you go, just let everybody know where they can find you online and keep up with your projects.
So there's MonikerArtFair.com. You can access all the free videos at theartconference.com or either of our YouTube channels. So there you are.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Tina.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.